I'm going to talk to you about polysyndeton and asyndeton. Now these are two fairly frequently used rhetorical devices, but they're ones that don't tend to be taught to frequently, which I think is a shame because they're found very frequently and they're great to talk about in terms of their effect. The following sentence: entering the shop, I bought a newspaper, a drink, a magazine and a bag of crisps, is a pretty ordinary sentence in the English language. It's a syndetic sentence. And what I mean by that is that every clause is separated by a comma, and then when you get to the end of the list, you've got this "and" that signals that you've come to the end of the list. It's a bit like a massive flag that's being flown around going, I'm ending my sentence right now. If you take a look at this one in comparison, entering the shop, I bought a newspaper and a drink and a magazine and a bag of crisps. You're kind of unsure that we've actually got to the end of the list. This flag that we were talking about before is no longer being waved. We're a little bit uncertain. It almost makes it seem as if it's endless. This is a polysyndetic sentence. If we compare it to this one, entering the shop, I bought a newspaper, a drink, a magazine, a bag of crisps. Again, where's that flag? We're unsure about the end of the sentence. This is an asyndetic sentence. So what's the effect?
Like the Penrose steps, the infinite staircase. See?
So it's a bit of a trick. It seems endless. The list seems endless if you're using polysyndeton or asyndeton. Of course it's not. We can see the full stop. The sentence is ending. But the effect of both polysyndeton and asyndeton is endlessness. They make the list seem as if it's going on and on. Or if you're going to be pretentious, it develops a sense of multiplicity. Now they're almost like opposites. Polysyndeton, lots of ands, lots of conjunctions. Asyndeton, no conjunctions. And yet they both share that same effect. They both suggest endlessness. It's a bit like this kind of picture you might have seen before by MC Escher. You've got the chap over here, for example, who's climbing up the stairs and up the stairs and up the stairs, and he's going up and up and up and round and round and up and up and up and up and up, and yet he's still at the bottom. We've got a sense that it almost seems as if it's going on and on. There is a trick being played, and that trick is to create a sense of endlessness by having those conjunctions removed completely or just having them constantly, so you don't have the flag of the final conjunction saying, I'm at the end of my sentence. It's used loads. I've just picked out a few examples from literature. This one from Philip Pullman. The endless trickling, sucking of the marsh, the scraping of insects, the calling of gulls. It seems as if it could go on. And Pullman knew what effect he was trying to achieve. In fact, he actually told us. He said, didn't he? The endless trickling. He wants to create that sense of endlessness through the use of asyndeton and through the polysyndeton. 1 billion tiny mud creatures lived and ate and died in the top layer of sand, and the little casts and breathing holes and invisible movements. You're getting worn out with the sense of multiplicity, the ongoing nature of this. We've got an example from I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Let the white folks have their money and power and segregation and sarcasm and big houses and schools, and it goes on. But with each single point, there's this sense of unending vastness, that the white folks have everything. They have an endless supply of advantages. And finally, a text that you probably come across at GCSE or A-level. Great Expectations. In the first chapter, Dickens describes Pip and his environment, and he describes the environment through polysyndeton. At such a time I found out for certain that this bleak place overgrown with nettles was the churchyard, and that Philip Pip, late of this parish, and also Georgiana, wife of the above, were dead and buried, and that Alexander, Bartholomew, Abraham, Tobias, Roger, infant children of the aforesaid, were also dead and buried, and that the dark flat wilderness beyond the churchyard, intersected with dykes and mounds and gates, with scattered cattle feeding on it, was the marshes, and that the low leaden line beyond was the river, and that the distant savage lair from which the wind was rushing was the sea, and that the small bundle of shivers, growing afraid of it all and beginning to cry, was Pip. Loads of polysyndeton, making it seem overwhelming, endlessly overwhelming. Poor little Pip is pathetic in comparison to the vastness of the environment that surrounds him. And that vastness, that overwhelming nature, is conveyed through the polysyndeton. We also get this in speech. A phrase attributed to Julius Caesar. I came, I saw, I conquered. Not I came, I saw, and I conquered. I came, I saw, I conquered. Asyndeton. And again, it seems as if his achievements are endless. Also, it seems as if there is no pause. It's relentless, and that's a technique that you find with asyndeton. It's an effect of asyndeton, that it's quick. It moves from this to this to this, without stopping, without even stopping for a conjunction, just as Caesar went on without stopping. He relentlessly pursued his goals. And what I find is good speeches contain rhetorical devices, including polysyndeton and asyndeton, as I'm sure you're aware. But it's almost impossible to find a good political speech, for example, that doesn't contain polysyndeton and asyndeton. We're going to have a look at two presidential inauguration speeches. First of all, JFK's.
Let every nation know, whether it wishes us well or ill, that we shall pay any price, bear any burden, meet any hardship, support any friend, oppose any foe, to assure the survival and the success of liberty.
What JFK is pointing out are the endless lengths that he would go to in order to pursue the ideals of the American people. And he does it through asyndeton. It's endless. It's also reinforced by other rhetorical devices like repetition, the repetition of any. But it's the asyndeton that really captures that sense of endlessness, that sense of multiplicity of points.
My fellow citizens, I stand here today humbled by the task before us, grateful for the trust you've bestowed, mindful of the sacrifices borne by our ancestors.
This was the first line of President Obama's presidential inauguration. And again, he starts off with asyndeton. So we can see, lots of texts use asyndeton and polysyndeton for effect. And the effect is largely the idea of endlessness. Although again, asyndeton can make things go quickly, polysyndeton can slow things down and focus you on particular points, particular aspects of the text. However, you can also use these in your writing. On the AQA Legacy A spec, the top marks required you to have discursive markers. Rhetorical devices were expected to be in evidence that are integrated into the whole seamlessly and persuasively. Also, may use some inventive structural or linguistic devices. Asyndeton and polysyndeton are such things. And finally, how to remember. Lots of people get confused which is which. Is it polysyndeton? Is it asyndeton? And I would just focus in on the prefix. Prefix poly or the prefix a. Poly means many. You might have heard it in the context of things like polyphonic ringtones, where there are many sounds in the ringtone. Or polygon, many-sided shape. Similarly, polysyndeton, many conjunctions. A means not. So, atypical, not typical. Asymmetrical, no lines of symmetry. Asyndeton, no conjunctions. Good luck.